After 43 days, the longest government shutdown in U.S. history is now over. It's time for the Streamline, everything you need to know in 10 minutes or less. Overnight, President Trump inked his signature on a new funding bill that will keep the government running through January, extending SNAP food benefits and guaranteeing furloughed employees receive back pay. The House narrowly passed the bill with a majority of Democrats voting against it.
So I just want to tell the American people, you should not forget this when we come up to midterms and other things. Don't forget what they've done to our country.
Next month, the Senate is set to vote on expiring health care subsidies, the Democrats' main demand during the shutdown. If those tax credits are not extended, health care premiums could skyrocket for millions of Americans on Obamacare. And now the clock is ticking for Congress to pass its standard funding bills, or we could be in the same position, facing another shutdown in February. And as the government reopens today, millions of Americans still waiting on their SNAP benefits. A spokesperson for the Department of Agriculture says funds should be available within 24 hours. But the Associated Press reports the department did not say whether that meant money would be available to the states or actually loaded onto the debit cards. At least 19 states, including California, issued full benefits to some recipients last week. And airlines are also warning it could take a week before flights get back to normal. This morning, nearly 1,000 flights have already been canceled, but things are improving a little bit. The FAA is freezing its flight reduction order. So that means airlines will only need to continue cutting 6% of flights instead of the 8% that was set for today. It was supposed to go to 10% tomorrow.
It will take about a week or so, I think. This is kind of my rough estimate for things to kind of come back into what I'd call pre-shutdown normalcy.
Air traffic controllers are starting to return to work after weeks without pay. Some called in sick, others took other jobs to make ends meet during this shutdown. And with the shutdown now over, lawmakers are turning their attention to the case of sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The House is now set to vote on a bill to release the Epstein files. This comes after a House committee released more than 20,000 documents from his estate, some mentioning Trump. In one exchange from 2011, Epstein writes to his co-conspirator, Ghislaine Maxwell, quote, "The dog that hasn't barked is Trump." Another email said Trump spent hours at Epstein's house with one of his victims, later revealed to be Virginia Giuffre by the White House. She made no allegations, though, of wrongdoing by Trump. Giuffre died by suicide earlier this year. The White House insisted there is no evidence that President Trump knew about Epstein's crimes. Civil rights leader Jesse Jackson is in the hospital. The Rainbow Push Coalition says the 84-year-old is under observation for a neurodegenerative disease. He was diagnosed with that condition last year, but the organization says he's been dealing with symptoms for more than a decade. Jackson rose to the national stage back in the 1960s as an advocate for racial equity, economic justice, and also voter rights. He worked closely with Martin Luther King Jr. and was considered one of his proteges. All 14 victims in the UPS plane crash in Kentucky last week have now been identified. The ages of the victims range from as young as 3 years old to 65. The victims were identified through DNA. Now, crews are still working to clear debris from this site. Officials are saying they believe there are no more people to recover from this incident. Investigations into what caused the plane to crash, right now they are still ongoing.
Colder weather means you'll likely be running your heater, but there are things you can do to make sure your system is working properly so you don't have to spend a ton of money on heating costs.
Some of the things we don't want to see are going to be buildup of rust, any hot spots. Hot spots or any rust will look exactly like this.
As a service technician for Mozzie, Christian Perez says taking care of your HVAC system can mean the difference between a couple $100s to thousands in repairs.
You'd be surprised at how much stuff ends up inside of these systems. I've seen anything from, rodents. I've seen toys inside of these systems. So it's always good to at least, have the peace of mind when you're running the equipment that it's safe for you and the family.
He says the first line of defense, keep on top of routine maintenance, such as changing out your air filter every 3 to 6 months. That will cost you anywhere from $10 to $15 a package. And it's something homeowners can do on their own. Next, make sure the area inside your system and the equipment is clean, because the dirt and debris could put a strain on your system.
When it comes to debris inside of a blower housing, it only takes 1/10 of an inch to reduce the efficiency of that motor by 20 to 30%.
which means you'll need more electricity because it will take longer to heat.
You run the system a lot longer than what you need to. When you're running it longer, the bills or pockets ain't happy.
But this is also the type of service that requires a professional technician. A maintenance service appointment can run you about $70 to just under $100. According to data from Energy Sage, an online comparison for clean energy products, families are paying just over $152 a month for their electricity bill. And in the colder months, that cost usually goes up.
So these are going to be the biggest motors inside of the system.
But Christian says if you take care of your HVAC system properly, your system will work more efficiently, which means you will be saving money. Marie Cornell, ABC 10 News.
The collapse of a Marriott-backed hotel chain is leaving guests all around the world stranded. The rental company Sonder says it filed for bankruptcy and decided to liquidate its U.S. business Monday. Travelers on social media say they were evicted, given less than 24 hours to pack up and leave their rooms. Marriott is working to support guests who book directly with them, but guests who book through a travel agency should reach out to those organizations. It's the end of an era here. The final penny has been pressed. The U.S. Mint is ending productions for the 238-year-old coin. Federal government saying it's just too expensive, costs nearly 4 cents to make 1 penny. The Treasury Department is expecting to save $56 million a year on materials now. There are still 300 billion pennies in circulation, but there are concerns about what's going to happen when supplies run low. Stores are warning customers they could round up prices, or they could round them down. All right, a new health warning here. High blood pressure in kids has nearly doubled over the past 2 decades. A new study found 6% of children had hypertension in 2020. That's up from 3% in 2000. Doctors say kids with high blood pressure are at a greater risk of developing heart disease later on in life. Experts say too much salt, ultra-processed food, and also a lack of exercise is leading to this spike. Up in Sacramento, kids at the UC Davis Medical Center, they are taking on a new challenge here. Every day, this 6-foot-tall Waldo is moved around a building that's under construction alongside the hospital. The idea came from the project's safety manager as a way to give the kids something to look forward to each day. Both sides of the building get their own Waldo to search for daily. The team also gifted both hospitals some Where's Waldo books. Yeah, anything to lift their spirits. And that's your ABC 10 News Streamline. Everything you need to know today in under 10 minutes.